Hello, facilitators, and welcome to this video about the astrology for speech of November 2024. For those of you who don't know me, or maybe are just watching for the first time, or just are wondering about how do I know what I'm talking about, my name is Marci Melzer. I'm an intuitive speech pathologist. And my platform, wavesofcommunication.com, equips and empowers parents and caregivers to be the child's best functional language facilitators. And I'm also an energy worker. That's why I call myself an intuitive SLP. And what I like to do on these astrology videos is share with parents and caregivers the astrology aspects. So I study Western tropical astrology, and what I talk about, I use this astrology actually as a tool to understand the energy of a late talking child. So remember, they're not able to use speech. They're using behavior and energy and intuition and all kinds of things to communicate with us. And when we understand what's going on with the planets, so above, so below, all of those things, then we can work with the energy, because the planets and how they move, they really affect, especially the moon. When the moon is full like this, it affects us personally because it's very close, especially we've got a super full moon going, all this stuff going on. So what I want to do on this video is just let you know, for the last half of November, I realize that we're already in the middle of November, but the really important astrology for speech is coming up right now and moving forward into December, and I want you to be prepared to work with it. So before we get started, I want to remind you that I am doing metaphysical SLP consultations. If you want to learn about that, you can go to wavesofcommunication.com/intuitive. We can review your late talker's astrology and yours if you want. We can review intuitive energy reading using my language facilitation inspiration cards and other oracle information, and then energy work strategies for parents to use the information. So you want to use every bit of information you can get about your journey to help your late talker shift their nonverbal communication into functional spoken language. All right, so how do the planets affect all this? Well, right now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the super full moon in Taurus, which is happening on November 15th. And it's big. It's the last big super moon. We've had about a few in a row here, which has been elevating the energy. And we've also had some other planetary things going on, like Mars went retrograde at the beginning of this month, that right around the election time. And that really affected things. It sort of set off the energy of what's going on right now. We've got Pluto also moving, but what I want to talk about first is this super full moon. And that is how, remember, full moons affect children and animals and elderly people who are in periods of their life where maybe spoken language isn't their primary communication. They sort of live life riding the waves of the energy a little bit more. And I talk about seniors because they've moved past the time where they're more concerned about what they're doing in how they affect the life, and more about how the life affects them. That's why children and animals, we see them react and respond to the energy of the full moon, because it's affecting them at a subconscious level, literally affecting the water in your body, and how when we get big gravitational pull with a big full moon, you could be feeling pulled into energy. You could be feeling like you are projected upon, because this big full moon is in Taurus, about people who are, I know what I know. This is how I do things. This is how I roll. I get things done this way. This is the only way. It's my way or the highway. That's kind of Taurus, where they're like, no, I know what works. I don't need you to teach me anything. I'm going to do what I know I do. And that's what a Taurus is. And the full moon is saying everybody's in their own feeling. But because of this Mars that we just had going on that's flavoring this moon, that it's, not retrograde yet, but it's moving forward and getting ready to be, it's, in these places where it's activating in a Mars like way, how we feel, where we are defensive. Mars is the defense planet. So we're feeling very defensive about the things, all of us are, about the Taurus things, the things that we are, I know it works, this is my thing. And with this full moon and the upcoming energies, it's going to be challenged. So that's kind of where everybody's feeling this right now, is this full moon is challenging the people who are trying to make change, because they need to make change, because maybe this Taurus full moon is making you realize that what people have been projecting at me is not feeling good anymore. Like Mars is challenging it. I don't think that I need to get that diagnosis, even though you say you need to. That's this projection, this full moon. People are projecting, you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do this, and you need to do that, based on their knowledge of whatever. But you have the opportunity to decide for yourself. I think that's what this moon is inviting us to do, is you are super in your own Taurus energy. You don't need to receive what's projected from everybody else, because it's all very dichotic now. People will be quick to judge and project and say this is that and this and that. So this full moon gives you the opportunity to be aware. That's what I want you to do, is don't feel like you can, of course, join the projectors and say, no, I'm not this, and fight against it and all that stuff. Or you can be an observer. This is what I recommend for the super full moon. Starts energy is right now. We're already in the energy of it, and it's going to be going on for the next few days through the weekend, right? So through this weekend, you be on the lookout for people who are projectors, projecting their ideas, this is what the way it's got to be onto you, and how you feel about that. Do you feel like, yeah, this is something I want to embrace and continue to project outward, jump on that bandwagon, or not? Because you can decide. That's what a full moon lets you do, every full moon. And in this area where it is in Taurus, lit up by Sagittarius, which is the let's get something done, and Taurus says we do it my way at the full moon, because it's my moon, Taurus's moon, right? Sagittarius is just lighting it up, but it's in Taurus. This is where it happens. So I offer you the opportunity to observe and hold off on your action, because we've got other aspects that are affecting your interest in jumping forward and getting something done, to maybe make you want to be hesitating. So if you're not feeling like, yeah, let's get doing this, or you're fighting with that, I want to do this because we got a full moon and you want to project, but yet you're not really sure what you want to project. It's like, I'm still trying to figure this out. Like, what I see in other things maybe doesn't resonate with me, but what do I project? What am I projecting? What am I, as a language facilitator, projecting to my child, my lay talking child? And so that full moon gives you the opportunity to consider that. Just like I made a video earlier today about responsibility, this full moon is giving you the opportunity to be responsible, not go off on a tangent, fight or flight, but be in the knowledge of what you know and how you believe things need to move forward in your individual life, not responding to the crowd. So what's happening with the crowd, and this is happening to all of us, is that Pluto moves into Aquarius for the final time in our lifetimes. It's going to be there for nearly 200 years. So none of us will be around anymore when Pluto moves again from this area to Pisces. Like it's 200 years. It's going to be a really, really long time for this to be happening. No, not 200 years, 20 years. It's 200 years since it came around to this same place. And that's why, or more. because that's where the US is having its Pluto return. I'm so sorry about this. So astrology is not my primary way to communicate with people. I just want to help you use the energy. And that's why I have to break it down to a speechy way for you. And what Pluto into Aquarius? So Pluto has been in Capricorn. Capricorn is the energy of top down structures. And just like this full moon in Taurus, this is how we do things. So for the past 20 years, the systems have been in development. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't strong enough. We weren't in control. It wasn't systemized. It wasn't organized. It wasn't all of this. And over that past 20 years is where the idea of, oh, autism is the key diagnosis. If we just diagnose all of the children with autism, that unlocks the insurance payments, all the top-down structures, like gets me access to the therapy, gets me access to the whatever, because 20 years ago, speech therapy wasn't paid for ever. And the Pluto in Capricorn solution to that problem was, we're just going to make a system so that all late talkers will get the services from the top down. But of course, in Capricorn, you got to follow the rules, which means you've got to get the diagnosis, you've got to get the evaluation, you've got to meet the needs. And in fact, it started before it became autism, was you have to be more severe. So the money was running out for early intervention, and they were saying, well, we just can't let every mom get this government service. Only moms can get this service, because early intervention is supposed to train the parent to facilitate for the kid. It's not meant to be direct service for the child. It's meant to be parent support in parenting before a child's 3 years old, to help them move into the system appropriately, to help them develop school readiness. And if the child's not developing school readiness because of physical, environmental, or mindset things, in the old days, 20 years ago, they could just get a parent teacher helper to come and teach them and do all that stuff. But then, of course, that money ran away, and then the child had to be determined to have a diagnosis. So that's where the ASD thing came in, the spectrum. So now we can put all the kids into that same bucket of diagnosis and get it all happening. But you see, then, like I said, you can't get the help. That's what ended up happening, was you can't get the help unless you follow the rules, get the diagnosis, get the thing. And so over the past 20 years, this has been what's been happening in the speech therapy world. And we talk about the astrology of speech. So now Pluto's moving out of that. We're not controlled anymore in the speech world, or any world, by top-down structures. Aquarius is the power to the people, how we help each other, how we work as a community, how we are humanitarians, and like, oh, you need help, and I can involve you and include you, instead of exclude you because you do or don't have a diagnosis, or you do or don't have this certification to take the state money, to get the thing, to do the money. So as a professional, you were slotted. As a client, you were slotted. But with Pluto moving into Aquarius, there's no more slots. They're going to be filled up. The money's going to run out. Parents are going to revolt. They're not going to like what they get. There's too many kids in the system. That's the other thing. So there's just not enough resources in that Capricornian Pluto controlled system that was going on for the past 20 years. There was no more of that going to be around, because Pluto's like, done. We're done with the top down structures. We've learned how it doesn't work, or does work, right? It doesn't work because people are leaving it by droves. And that's what you're going to see, is more and more people. And you could be one of those that's being challenged right now. Again, this full moon is showing you, how effective is that ABA? How worthy, valuable is that ASD diagnosis? Did you get it because it was projected onto you by some Taurian, Capricornian earth sign, situation that said, you got to do this or you can't get help? Or are you ready to be figuring out, you know what, I don't need all this. I am empowered. Pluto empowers you, and it's opposing Jupiter. So we've got, we're going to, and opposing Mars. It's actually opposing Mars right now, which says, look, I'm powerful in what I know. I don't need to listen to the boss man, the system, the whatever. In fact, what people have been doing up until this point, because Pluto already started to go into Aquarius in 2023, So about springtime of last year, March of last year, 2023, you were probably already investigating. I wonder if this thing is really right for me. I wonder if ASD is really right for me. And then you went back, and then you could come back now to say, you know what, I really decided I'm done. And so a lot of people, as Pluto pushes farther into Aquarius, are going to be done with this whole, I got to get the diagnosis. Where's my ASD diagnosis? That's ASD. And professionals aren't going to, it's not going to serve them anymore because parents aren't going to accept it as the criteria to get help. They're going to figure out how to help their children no matter what's going on with them because they're not all autistic. That was created by the Plutonian controlled Capricorn time of the past 20 years. Okay. So, yeah, if you think that I'm wrong, just wait and see, because you'll see how many more things this ABA system, this diagnosis, it's going to break down over the next 20 years. Okay. So, now what you have to work with this, the lucky thing, even though we think that it's, a big problem, is Mercury retrograde. So, on the heels of this Pluto pushing its way into Aquarius, where we're on our own, we're working in a community, we're helping each other out, we're not relying on the systems, the big top down anymore. And this starts the end of the month. So you've got another 10 days. Already we're in the shadow. So the things that you're worrying about, thinking about, deciding now, is it for me? I like what's being projected, or I don't like what's being projected, or maybe there's something new I need to investigate. All of that is happening now, and it's going to be revisited over until December 15th. It's going to go forward a little bit more, not too much more, but at 22 degrees. So if that number 22 means something to you, 22 is the number of twos, it's pairs, it's getting together with small groups of people, one-on-ones, and connecting with people, connecting with your child, right, the way that you want. And a retrograde lets us review, revamp, redecide, rehash, respond. That's what retrograde is about, especially Mercury retrograde for late talking kids. It gives you the opportunity to review the mercurial aspects of your life. And if you're a language facilitator, that's your 24/7. How is my child receiving what's going on? Receiving. Are you responsive? Just like I talked about that video. If you don't feel like you're responsive, you don't know what to do with your child's behavior, you need to watch the video I just made earlier today, because that responsibility is what you use during Mercury retrograde. As you watch and observe your child, we're not projecting, trying to change things. The more you try to force things to happen during Mercury retrograde, the more they will break down on you. In fact, we review everything twice. We don't book our stuff. We, get whatever. And in fact, there is a period of time in the middle of this, right, where it gets really dicey. So Mercury's been retrograde in fire signs all year. So you might have felt it. It happened again earlier in summer and at the very beginning of the year. We had some issues with Mercury being retrograde and experiencing these reviews of your experience. And depending on what was going on at that time of year, you were hopefully, as a facilitator, aware enough of the situation going on around you to do some review, some rehashing, some changes. Maybe you decided to stop something. Maybe you decided to start something. Maybe you decided to wait for the future time. I'm telling you, this is not the future time to get new things started. This is your time to review what you have been doing. It's the end of the year. It's the last retrograde of 2024. It's happening while we've got this Pluto moving into Aquarius. So now you're going to see more things around you, right? When you're aware and responsive to what's happening around you, you're going to see better things to choose from. Because remember, these old things are breaking down anyway. People are suffering. They're not going anymore. They're closing clinics, or they're changing their degrees, or they're, I was studying behavior sciences and now I want to do something else, because they don't feel good in it. I just had an experience this week. There is a beautiful speech pathologist student who walked out of a clinic. She worked really hard to get in there, and it was so top down. It was all about the money and do you have NDIS and had you get the diagnosis and all of that business. Her job was to make sure people jumped through the hoops so they could get paid. It wasn't about helping children talk, and she walked out. She was aware enough of her own situation. She was like, this isn't helping me get anywhere. And this Mercury retrograde with this aspect. So now we've got this crazy aspect, which is a T square. So when things are a square like this, it's balanced. But when it's a T square, we've got, a little bit of an imbalance in what's going on. And that's what's happening during this Mercury retrograde. So we've got opposite the Mercury, we've got Jupiter. And when Jupiter is in Gemini and Mercury is in Sagittarius, they're in each other's house. It's called mutual reception in astrology, but they control each other's place. So they're sort of in their detriment, which means it's like when you go and visit someone and they aren't really prepared to have you stay, or they haven't fixed up the guest room or the hot water tank isn't working or something like that. They're just both not in their best, but they're still hosting the other person to come in. And so it's not the ideal situation. It's not comfortable, right? This T square, it's wonky. It feels like, oh no, things are shaky under my feet. We finished this Taurus full moon. All this stuff's moved in. So now people are considering. So we've got this opposition. Plus we've got Saturn and Pisces over there saying, how do you feel about this? Is it something you can carry moving forward? Is it something that you can structure and consistent? Because Saturn is the one that makes sure you get it done, that you don't just talk about it. This is Jupiter and Gemini. They're having conversations. I can do this and you can do this and we can make it bigger. Yeah, make this plan, do this thing. And Saturn's going, hey guys, based on what? You're making these plans, you're talking about whatever, but based on what knowledge? What do you know? What do you have? What resources do you have? How do you really feel about this? Can you sustain it for the long term? Because that's what this retrograde does, folks, is it shows you what isn't working. And it also shows you what is, so that you can decide to, during this period of time, a lot of experimentation. This works, that doesn't. Let's try life without it moving forward, and you'll see how it goes, and you'll start to feel better as you wash out all those things that don't match anymore, because that's what a T square does. It helps clear out the things that aren't working. It gets you back into, how do I get comfortable again? I have to take action. I have to focus. I have to do something different to balance my life out again, right? And if you have personal planets anywhere in Pisces or in Gemini or in Sagittarius, this Mercury retrograde is going to affect you and your child a lot, because one of those legs of this three-legged stool is being activated. They want to do something. They want to move. They want to try, but the other two are saying, you can't go without us. We're joined together for this experience. You can't just make big ideas and decide to do something without a plan. You can't decide to dig in and do it. I'm going to do it 5 times a day or 8 times a day or 12 times a day. That's what Jupiter does. Make it bigger, do it more, just do it more. Mercury, talk more. Saturn says, do you know what you're saying? Are you saying the right words? Are you responding in Pisces? Are you responding to the emotions that you're triggering with these conversations over here? Because Saturn says we have to do it right this time. We have the opportunity to review what's been going on since not just this year, but all the way back to 2023, when this first started happening, and you were like, this feels good. I want it, because it probably felt pretty good, whatever you did in 2023, but it was short-lived because Saturn moved back. It was challenged. If it didn't stick, if you didn't stick it out, you're back again to try it again. So if you worked with me in 2023, and somehow it kind of got discombobulated. Potentially, this is the time to reconnect with the videos that you purchased, the workshop that you bought, the book that you've got sitting in the drawer. This is your opportunity, right? Because on December 3rd, I know we're getting out of November into December, but I want you to prepare for this week. December 3rd to 8th is the biggest big week for this challenge, because that's when the Cazimi happens. So Mercury's going, doing its thing, communicating with Jupiter, communicating with Saturn, dealing with all these other things, deciding, do I like it, do I not, responding to Pluto and Aquarius. Okay, there's nobody to answer this question for me. I'm going to have to figure it out myself. All of that's going on. And then what happens is the sun comes and blocks out Mercury. So we got the sun in Cazimi and Mercury's hiding behind. So the sun in Sagittarius highlights, activates, pushes out. It's kind of like this full moon again, because it's the Sagittarius sun that lit up this full moon. But when the Sagittarius sun and Mercury get into Cazimi, which means that Mercury's hiding behind, the sun's so bright you can't see Mercury. It's hiding behind the sun. The sun's where Sagittarius says, look, we got to do something now. We got to push through. I know you're reviewing. I know you're doing, but you want to push. You want to push. You could get so much pressure during this week from the 3 to the 8th to do it the old way, right? Because they're all deciding, how are you moving forward? How are you moving forward? How are you moving forward? Are you ready? 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 Because if you're not ready, then and you move forward anyway, you're going to have big problems this week. Your travel is going to be messed up. You're going to see the effects, because the sun in Sagittarius doesn't care about what Mercury's been looking at, reviewing, whatever. It just wants to do. It just wants to do. So I present you with the opportunity to chill out during this week with your late talker. Spend the time at home. It's right after the Thanksgiving holiday. So you're going to have that recovery from the Thanksgiving experience, whatever that was, if you're in the United States, to deal with, or otherwise you're just getting into your summertime. You folks over in Australia, you're starting to deal with the really cold of winter setting in, and you're getting ready for the holidays. So there's going to be a lot of pressure during this week, December 3rd to 8th, where you could feel pressure to, if you don't get the diagnosis, we're going to kick you out, or we're, from a speech standpoint, right? Getting ready for the school break here in the United States. So, you could find out this week that your child doesn't make it into the regular class. They're not going to let them in. These are oppositional things to what you're reviewing, because it's meant to teach you to listen to what's going on. And I invite you to avoid anything that is heavy pressure, because the pressure is not going to stop. This is very high energy stuff that's coming from these planets that want to make people take action. And if it's coming from someone's ego, they want to take advantage of you. They want to make money on you. They want to make you do something their way. Like they're trying to push that Sagittarius energy onto you at this Cazimi with the Mercury. So this week could be pretty volatile, because that T-square, we got this rickety thing, and somebody coming from the other side is going to, try to knock you off your balance. And that's what I suggest for this period of time. So I'm actually getting on a plane on December 3rd to return from my Thanksgiving trip. But yeah, that's the astrology for November as far as speech. So as a review, this is a very important time of awareness and self-awareness and responsibility. All the retrograde times, whenever they're lit up by other big planets, like this particular one is, some of them we ride through without too many issues coming up, but you will be challenged in how you are going about your language facilitation journey in the next 30 days, for sure. And I want you to be prepared with resources you need to ride through the energy. Either engage with it if it feels positive and moving forward, and be brave enough to take risks into areas that feel new and different to you. This is part of it. But also be aware of the experience, because if you try something and it's not good, this is the easiest time to say no, thank you. If it isn't, that's what I tell everybody. If it isn't a hell yes, it's a no, thank you. That's the energy that we're in right now. But the only one that decides if it's a hell yes or a no thank you is you, because you have to use all of your responsibility to filter out this energy that's projecting and projecting and projecting and projecting at us. And be sovereign in your own self right now until these big things, because they're going to fight breakdown. Things don't break down overnight, right? But there will be big energy, pressure energy from these top-down organizations: education, government, healthcare, insurance, banking, everywhere, where people are deciding if they are trying to hold on for dear life to these top-down structures that are crumbling, or if they're like, let them have it, no thank you. We're moving forward in a new way, taking our risks and to be in our sovereignty to do things our own way. So that's the speech energy for November 2024. It is very, very volatile, and you have to be really aware to be able to ride this out, because this is where the paradigm that has been the standard, it is right now the standard. You get the diagnosis, that's how you get the therapy. You get the diagnosis, that's how you get the funding. You get the diagnosis, that's how you get in the class. And if you don't, you can't go to the regular ed, you can't do here because your child meets these criteria. The gates are up, right? Big time right now. That's what Pluto did in Capricorn, was let these people build these gates, big gates, to gatekeep out this and that. And your energy as a facilitator, you can make your own fortress, with those gates. So you have your own and you're aware. And then it won't be too long as we get farther into this energy. It'll be okay. But this is the time of breakdown, right before things get forward and move into the age of Aquarius, as things get better and we all start to help each other out and people aren't fighting over what's wrong with children to see who can make more money on that, which was the old way. And now people are going to say, how can we help these children together? What do we have right now that we don't have to rely on the big government for to be able to help these children right now? And that's what I want you to consider as you look forward in your month of November, the rest of the month, ride it out. And I just want to let you know before I go that I do metaphysical SLP consultations. Go to wavesofcommunication.com/intuitive, or there's a red banner up at the top right now. You can just click on that and learn all about how this works. They're real low price right now. So I encourage you to learn everything you can about what's going on in the world to help kids with late talkers, late speech delay, and see if they're on your team, part of your community or not. And engage with those who are part of your community. Start to develop these new things and new ways to move forward. Be brave about it. You can do this. And I want to encourage you to really feel empowered. And whatever new way you develop, it's all you. It's all you, or you and your friend, or you and your partner, or you and your neighbor, or you and your community. That's where we're going to be developing new language facilitation options, where parents are working together to get their kids homeschooled and things like that, as these systems don't meet your needs anymore. Okay, so you're going to be aware of what isn't working for you anymore. It's up to you to be brave enough to leave it behind and explore new options. That's what your retrograde is for. Review what you did before and explore something new. Try it out, experiment it, see how it happens. Think consciously about everything you're doing, because you will be challenged this month. You will, in your process. Even if you're going to the school, you'll be challenged because you're watching this video and you're aware that things are changing in the world. And if you want to be prepared, you've got to stay ahead of it. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow these astrology updates because I'm going to focus it on what you can do as a language facilitator because you are the best person to help your child. We don't need to use these top-down structures, not for this. This is language development that parents and teachers and caregivers have been doing forever. Before there ever was a teacher, there was language facilitators and caregivers who were teaching children how to use functional speech. And that's because they are using all the information that they can. So that's how I want to help you. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, on this one and keeping these as short as I can to keep you interested. But yeah, follow me for more astrology information and visit wavesofcommunication.com to learn how to work with me and get the best possible outcome with your late talker. That's my goal. Thanks again. Bye for now.